Galactic Empire on Alert, Part 1, The Anomaly, had served at Sensor Station Omega-7 for 300 years. In all that time, he had seen many things. He had watched stars die. He had tracked pirate fleets and merchant convoys. He had logged the movements of species from every corner of the Empire. His 4 arms moved across the control panels with the ease of long practice, and his ancient eyes had learned to read the patterns of space like a scholar reads old books. But tonight something was wrong. The signal appeared on his screen without warning. One moment there was empty space. The next moment there was a ship. Checked his instruments twice, then a third time. The readings made no sense. The vessel was small, barely larger than a diplomatic shuttle. Its shape was simple, almost plain, but its energy signature did not match anything in the Imperial database. The database contained records of 4,000 species. Every ship design, every engine type, every weapon system known to the Empire was stored within it. Had spent his entire career trusting that database. Now, for the first time, it had failed him. He sent an alert to the Imperial High Council. Within hours, the greatest minds of the Empire gathered in the council chamber on the Grand Admiral stood before the assembled senators and generals, her silver uniform gleaming under the lights. She was the most decorated military officer in Imperial history, and her reputation had been built on cold logic and careful planning. "Show me," she said. The recording played on the massive screen behind her. The senators watched in silence as the unknown ship moved through an asteroid field. It did not dodge the rocks. It did not slow down. Instead, it seemed to slip between them like water through fingers, as if space itself was bending to let it pass. Then, without any visible engine flare, the ship vanished. 3 seconds later, it reappeared 3 light seconds away, perfectly still, waiting. "What are we looking at?" one senator asked. His voice was not steady. "Unknown," replied. "The ship does not match any known design. Its movement patterns suggest a propulsion system beyond our current understanding. It has ignored all hailing frequencies but has shown no hostile intent. Could it be a probe, an automated drone? Possible but unlikely. The way it moves suggests active guidance. Someone is flying that ship, someone very skilled." The council debated for 6 hours. Some wanted to destroy the vessel immediately, before whatever controlled it could report back to its makers. Others argued for caution. A few suggested that perhaps this was a test, a trick played by some rival faction within the Empire itself. In the end, this recommendation was accepted. A scout fleet of 12 warships would be sent to intercept the vessel and make contact. If the unknown ship responded with hostility, the fleet would destroy it. If not, they would attempt communication. The fleet departed within the day. Commander led the scout fleet. He was a veteran of 30 campaigns, and his ship, the Crimson Lance, was one of the finest in the Imperial Navy. His crew was disciplined and professional. They had faced pirates and rebels and enemy warships. They were not easily frightened. But as the fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the target coordinates, felt something he had not felt in many years: fear. The unknown ship was waiting for them. It hung in space like a ghost, its hull dark and unmarked. The material of its construction was strange, neither metal nor ceramic nor any alloy the sensors could identify. It had no visible weapons, no shields, no engine ports. By all logic, it should not have been able to fly at all. "All ships hold position," ordered. "Sensor officer full scan." "Scanning now, Commander." There was a pause. "I am getting nothing, sir. The ship appears to be absorbing our sensor beams. I cannot determine its internal structure, power source, or crew complement." Felt the fear grow stronger. A ship that could hide from Imperial sensors was a ship that could hide anything. "Open a channel, all frequencies." "Channel open, sir." "Unknown vessel, this is Commander of the Imperial Navy. You have entered Imperial space without authorization. Identify yourself and state your intentions." Silence. The unknown ship did not move, did not respond, counted 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. "Sir," the communications officer said, "I am detecting an incoming transmission. It is. It is broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously." "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was unlike anything had ever heard. It spoke in perfect imperial standard, without accent, without hesitation. But there was something in it that made every officer on the bridge stop what they were doing and listen. "We come in peace. We are human. We would like to talk." Did not move for a long moment. The word human meant nothing to him. It was not in any database, not attached to any known species. Yet the voice spoke his language perfectly, as if it had been speaking it for centuries. "Unknown vessel," he said finally, "please clarify, what is human?" "We are," the voice replied. "We have traveled a very long way. We have been watching you for some time. We know much about your empire, your wars, your history. We mean you no harm, but we have things to discuss. Important things." "What things?" There was a pause. When the voice spoke again, it was softer, almost gentle. "The future, your future, our future. The future of everyone who lives among the stars. Commander, we know this is strange. We know you are afraid. Fear is natural when you meet something you do not understand. But we promise you we are not your enemy. We are something new, something different. Give us a chance to explain." Looked at his officers. Their faces showed confusion, fear, curiosity. He understood all of those feelings. He felt them himself. But he also felt something else. Something he had not felt since he was a young officer seeing the stars for the first time. Wonder. He opened the channel again. "Unknown vessel, human vessel. I am transmitting your message to the Imperial High Council. Please hold your position and wait for a response. We will talk." "Thank you, Commander," the voice said. "We will wait. We are very patient." The channel closed, the scout fleet held position, and in the darkness of space the small, strange ship waited, patient, silent, ready. The Empire had faced many threats in its 12,000 years of existence. It had survived wars and plagues and rebellions. It had conquered, built, and endured. But it had never faced anything like this. Something new had arrived, something that moved like a phantom and spoke like a friend, something that called itself human. And nothing would ever be the same. Galactic Empire on Alert, Part 2, First Contact. The Imperial Diplomatic Station Prime was the most secure meeting place in the entire empire. It floated in neutral space, far from any planet or trade route. Its walls were thick enough to stop warship cannons. Its shields could survive a direct nuclear strike. For 1,000 years, treaties had been signed here. Wars had been ended here. The fate of worlds had been decided within its gleaming halls. Now it would host the strangest meeting in galactic history. Grand Admiral stood in the main conference room, watching through the observation window as the human ship approached. It moved slowly now, almost politely, as if aware that it was being watched. Behind her stood a dozen Imperial guards, their weapons ready. She had brought a translator, a cultural specialist, and 3 of the Empire's finest scientists. She had prepared for every possibility she could imagine. She had not prepared for what actually walked through the door. The humans looked weak. That was her first thought. They stood on 2 legs like many species did, but their bodies were soft and unarmored. They had no claws, no fangs, no natural weapons of any kind. Their skin was thin. Their eyes were small. By any measure, they should have been prey animals, the kind of creatures that larger predators hunted for food. But there was something in the way they moved, something in the way they looked at her. It was not fear. It was not aggression. It was something else, something she could not name. Their leader stepped forward. He was a male, she assumed, based on his build. His hair was dark and cut short. His face was calm, almost peaceful. He wore a simple uniform with no decorations, no medals, no signs of rank except for a small symbol on his chest. "Grand Admiral," he said. His voice was the same one that had spoken to Commander. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. My name is Park. I am the captain of the Silent Dawn. These are my officers." He gestured to the two humans behind him. A female with long dark hair tied back in a simple style. A male with broad shoulders and watchful eyes. "Doctor, my science officer and cultural specialist. Lieutenant, my security officer." Studied them carefully. The female smiled at her. It was a strange expression, one that showed teeth. In most species, showing teeth was a threat, but somehow from her it felt different, warm almost. "Please," said Sit, "we have much to discuss." The meeting lasted for 7 hours. The humans explained their history slowly, patiently, answering every question. They came from a planet called Earth, located in a region of space the Empire had never explored. They called it the Sol Exclusion Zone, a sector filled with unstable hyperspace currents that made travel dangerous. For thousands of years, the Empire had assumed nothing lived there. They had been wrong. Humanity had developed alone. For 3,000 years, they had looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone else was out there. They had built telescopes and spacecraft and satellites. They had argued and fought and dreamed. And 200 years ago, they had finally cracked the secret of faster-than-light travel. "In that time," Captain Park explained, "we have colonized 47 worlds. We have built stations and cities and farms across our little corner of space. We have never met another intelligent species. Until now." Leaned forward. "Your ship, the way it moves, our sensors cannot track it. Our database cannot identify it. How is this possible? How can such a young species develop technology that surpasses ours?" Park smiled slightly. It was a small expression, barely visible, but it changed his face entirely. "We had no one to trade with," he said. "No one to learn from, no one to copy. Every other species in this galaxy grew up surrounded by neighbors. You could buy technology from others. You could steal it. You could learn from watching more advanced civilizations. We had none of that. We had only ourselves." Doctor spoke up. Her voice was soft but confident. "When you are alone, you must solve every problem from the beginning. You cannot take shortcuts. You cannot rely on what others have already done. It is harder, yes, much harder, but it also forces you to think in new ways, to find solutions that no one else has found." "Your phase technology," said. "The way your ship vanishes and reappears, we have nothing like it." "We call it slip space," Lieutenant said. It was the first time he had spoken. His voice was deeper than the others. "Our ships can partially leave normal space. We become ghosts, able to pass through matter and energy. It took us 90 years to develop. Many people died in the testing. And yet you came here alone, one small ship, no weapons, no fleet. Why?" Captain Park was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was serious. "Because we wanted to see what you would do. Meeting someone new is dangerous. We know that. We have read your history. We know about your wars, your conflicts, your enemies. We needed to know if you would shoot first and ask questions later, or if you would be curious, if you would choose to talk instead of fight. And if we had attacked you." Park did not answer, but something flickered in his eyes, something old and hard and sad. "Understood. If the Empire had attacked, things would have been very different." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent transmission. One of his officers rushed in, his face pale. "Admiral, they have learned about the human ship. A battle fleet is on its way. 57 warships. They will arrive within the hour." The room went silent. They were the Empire's oldest enemy. They were brutal, aggressive, and completely without mercy. They would not come to talk, they would come to take. Stood quickly. "We must evacuate. They will destroy this station to capture the human vessel. We cannot." "Admiral," Captain Park's voice was calm, completely calm. "With your permission, we would like to handle this." Stared at him. "Handle this? Captain, you have one ship, they have 57. They have weapons that can crack planets." Park stood, he straightened his uniform. When he looked at her, his eyes were steady. Admiral, my people spent 3,000 years alone in the dark. We learned many things in that time. We learned how to survive. We learned how to build. And we learned, when necessary, how to fight. He paused. Please trust us just this once. Looked at him for a long moment. Every instinct told her this was foolish. One ship against 57. It was suicide. But something in his eyes made her hesitate. Something that spoke of experience far beyond his apparent years. Very well, she said finally. Show me what humans can do. Park nodded. Thank you, Admiral. Please watch from the observation deck. This will not take long. He walked out of the room, his officers following behind him. Watched them go, wondering if she had just made the worst decision of her long career. Or the best. Galactic Empire on alert. Part 3 Demonstration. The battle fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a pack of hungry predators. 57 warships, each one bristling with weapons. Their hulls were dark red, the color of dried blood. Their design was brutal and practical, built for one purpose only: destruction. At the center of the fleet flew the flagship, the Crimson Fist. It was twice the size of any other ship, a floating fortress of death, and on its bridge stood Warlord, supreme commander of the forces. Was old, even by standards. His scales had turned with age, and scars covered his face like a map of violence. He had destroyed worlds. He had crushed rebellions. He had made entire species beg for mercy before he killed them anyway. Today, he would add a new trophy to his collection. Report, he growled. Sir, we have the target on sensors. One small vessel, unknown design. The diplomatic station is nearby. They appear to be preparing to evacuate. The unknown ship. That is why we came. I want it intact. I want its technology, and I want its crew alive for study. He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The can die. They are useless. Yes, Warlord. Opened a communication channel that broadcast across all frequencies. Attention, unknown vessel. This is Warlord of the Hegemony. You will surrender immediately. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. If you resist, you will be destroyed. If you comply, your deaths will be quick. You have 30 seconds to decide. The seconds passed slowly, waited, confident in his power. No one had ever refused him. No one would dare. Then a voice responded. It was calm, polite, almost gentle. Warlord, my name is Park. I am the captain of this vessel. I am required by my government to give you one warning. Please leave. We do not wish to fight. Laughed. The sound echoed across the bridge, harsh and mocking. You do not wish to fight. One small ship against my fleet. Either you are very brave or very stupid. I think you are stupid. I understand your position, Warlord, but I must be clear. If you attack us, we will defend ourselves, and you will not enjoy the result. Enough talk. All ships open fire, destroy the unknown vessel, leave nothing but dust. 57 warships turned their weapons toward the small human ship. Cannons charged, missiles armed. The combined firepower was enough to crack a moon. On the observation deck of Prime, Grand Admiral watched through the window. Her hands gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. She had seen many battles in her career, but she had never watched someone commit suicide before. The fleet fired. Space lit up with weapons fire. Beams of energy and clouds of missiles streaked toward the silent dawn from every direction. There was no escape. No defense could survive that storm of destruction. The silent dawn vanished. Blinked, the ship had been there one moment and then simply gone, not destroyed, not exploded, gone as if it had never existed. The weapon's fire passed through empty space. The ship stopped firing, confused. Sensors showed nothing. The target had disappeared. Then the silent dawn reappeared. It was inside the Crimson Fist's shield perimeter. Inside, where nothing should have been able to go. The small human ship hung there for half a second, peaceful and still. Then it fired. A single pulse of blue-white energy struck the flagship. There was no explosion, no fire, no visible damage at all, but every light on the Crimson Fist flickered and died. The massive ship went dark, drifting helplessly. The Silent Dawn vanished again. It appeared next to another warship. Fired, that ship went dark. Again, another ship. Again. Could not track what was happening. The human vessel moved too fast, too precisely. It appeared and disappeared like a ghost, striking once and moving on before anyone could react. The ships tried to turn, tried to target it, but they were shooting at shadows. Their weapons hit only empty space. In 93 seconds, it was over. All 57 warships drifted silent and dark. Their weapons were dead. Their engines were dead. Their shields were dead. They were not destroyed, realized with shock. They were disabled. Every single one of them disabled without a single death. The Silent Dawn appeared in the center of the defeated fleet. It hung there, quiet and patient, as if waiting. A communication came through from the human ship. Captain Park's voice was unchanged, still calm, still polite. "Warlord, your fleet has been neutralized. Your weapons and engines will remain offline for approximately 6 hours. During that time, I suggest you consider leaving this sector. We will not issue another warning." There was no response from the Crimson Fist. Perhaps was too shocked to speak. Perhaps he was too proud. Found her voice. "Captain Park, what did you do?" "We call it a pulse strike, Admiral. It overloads electronic systems without causing physical damage. Very precise, very clean, no deaths." "No deaths, but in a battle." "Admiral, my people do not like killing. We have done it before when we had no choice, but we do not enjoy it. We do not seek it. We believe that life is precious, even the lives of our enemies. These soldiers were following orders. They do not deserve to die for their leader's arrogance." Was silent for a long moment. In her entire career, she had never seen anything like this. A battle won without bloodshed. A victory achieved through precision rather than destruction. It should have been impossible. But she had just watched it happen. "Captain," she said slowly, "I believe I have greatly underestimated your people." "Most species do, Admiral. We are used to it." A new signal came through the communication system. This one was from deep space, from a direction that pointed toward the Sol exclusion zone. Captain Park listened, his expression shifting slightly for the first time since had met him. "Admiral," he said, "my government has been monitoring this situation. They have decided it is time for a proper introduction." "What do you mean?" "The diplomatic fleet is being dispatched. They wish to meet with your emperor directly." Felt something cold run down her spine. "How many ships?" Park was quiet for a moment. When he answered, his voice was soft. "All of them." "All of them, Captain, what does that mean? How many ships do your people have?" Park turned to face her through the communication screen. His eyes were serious. "Admiral, we spent 3,000 years alone. We had no enemies, so we never needed to build weapons of war. But we also had no friends, so we built ships to explore, to discover, to reach out. We built thousands of them, tens of thousands. Every colony, every station, every habitat. We are all coming." "To do what? To conquer us?" "No, Admiral, to meet you, to learn from you, to share what we have learned." He paused. "And to make sure that what happened here today never happens again. No more attacks, no more wars of conquest, no more empires crushing the weak." Stared at the small ship floating among the disabled fleet. Such a small thing, such a simple, plain vessel, and yet it had just defeated 57 warships without breaking a sweat. She thought about what the arrival of thousands more ships would mean, for the Empire, for the galaxy, for everything. "Captain Park," she said finally, "I think my Emperor will want to hear what you have to say." "I hope so, Admiral, because we have been waiting a very long time to say it." The silent dawn began to move, gliding gracefully past the drifting ships. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a fleet was gathering, a fleet of ghosts, a fleet of phantoms, a fleet of humans. And they were coming. Galactic Empire on Alert, Part 4, The Fleet. 3 days after the battle at Prime, the sensors across the Empire began to scream. It started at the outer stations. Watch officers reported strange readings, energy signatures appearing from nowhere. Then the middle systems sent their alarms. Then the core worlds. Within an hour, every sensor array in the Empire was detecting the same thing. Ships were emerging from phase space, hundreds of them, then thousands. Grand Admiral stood on the observation platform of the Imperial Palace, watching the sky above Prime. The planet was the heart of the Empire, the where emperors had ruled for 12,000 years. Its cities covered every continent. Its orbital stations formed a ring around the equator. Its defenses were the strongest in known space. None of that mattered now. The human fleet filled the sky like stars coming to life. Ship after ship appeared, each one unique, each one different. Had never seen anything like it. Military fleets were supposed to be uniform, standardized, identical. But this fleet was a patchwork of different designs, different colors, different styles. Ships from Mars were angular and red, built for harsh environments. Vessels from Europa were sleek and white, graceful as swimming creatures. Craft from Titan were massive and industrial, covered in mining equipment and cargo bays. There were ships shaped like needles, ships shaped like spheres, ships shaped like nothing she could name. And they kept coming. "How many?" the Emperor asked. His voice was steady, but could see the tension in his ancient face. 12,000, Your Majesty, and more are arriving. 12,000 ships, for a diplomatic mission. They call it a diplomatic fleet, Your Majesty. I believe they are, making a point. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. He was old, older than any living except the record keepers. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had fought wars that lasted centuries. He had buried 3 wives and 7 children. Nothing surprised him anymore. Until now. "Arrange a meeting," he said finally. "Let us hear what they have to say." The meeting took place in the great hall of the Imperial Palace. It was the largest room on Prime, built to hold 1,000 senators and their servants. Today, it held only a handful of people: the Emperor, Grand Admiral, a few trusted advisors, and the humans. Their leader was a woman. She walked into the great hall with calm confidence, her steps measured and unhurried. She was older than Captain Park, her hair streaked with, and she was missing her left arm. In its place was a mechanical replacement, simple and functional. She wore a uniform similar to Park's but with more symbols on it. "Your Majesty," she said, bowing slightly. "I am Admiral Han, Supreme Commander of the Human Diplomatic Fleet. Thank you for receiving us." The Emperor studied her with ancient eyes. "Admiral Han, you bring 12,000 ships to my. Forgive me if I find that somewhat aggressive." "I understand, Your Majesty, but we did not come to threaten you. We came to talk, and to ensure that our conversation would not be interrupted by those who do not wish us to talk. Like the and others. There are many in this galaxy who profit from war and chaos. They will not welcome what we have to say." "And what is that?" Admiral Han stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice was clear and strong. "Your Majesty, we spent 3,000 years alone in the dark. We looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone else was out there. We hoped. We dreamed. We imagined what it would be like to meet others like us, others who thought and loved and wondered. Then we developed the technology to travel between stars. We sent ships out into the unknown, searching for friends, searching for anyone. For 200 years we found nothing. Empty worlds, dead planets, the silence of the void. And then we found you." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We found a galaxy full of life, thousands of species, thousands of cultures, thousands of ways of seeing the universe. It was everything we had hoped for, everything we had dreamed of. But we also found darkness. We found war. We found slavery. We found empires that crushed the weak and killed the innocent. We found species that had been wiped out because they were different. We found cruelty on a scale we could barely imagine. The Emperor's expression did not change. You speak of the dominion, of the shadows in our history. I speak of everyone, Your Majesty, including your own empire. The empire is old and powerful, but it is not innocent. You have conquered, you have killed, you have made mistakes. And what would you have us do? Apologize for surviving? No, Your Majesty, we would have you do better. The Emperor was silent, watched his face, trying to read his thoughts. In 12,000 years, no one had spoken to him this way. No one had dared. Admiral Han continued, "We did not come here to judge you. We came here to offer a choice, a chance, a new way forward. We have been watching the galaxy for a century. We know about the slave camps. We know about the biological weapons. We know about the secret wars and hidden crimes. We know everything. And we have decided that we are going to change it, not by force, not by conquest, but by offering something better, a partnership, an alliance, a compact. Join us and we will share what we have learned, our technology, our medicine, our knowledge. We will stand with you against any threat. We will help you build something greater than any empire has ever been. Refuse and we will leave. We will not attack you. We will not threaten you, but we will not help you either. You will face the future alone." The Emperor rose from his throne. He was tall, taller than any human, and his presence filled the room. "Admiral Han, you speak of a galaxy without war, without slavery, without cruelty. Do you truly believe such a thing is possible?" "I do, Your Majesty." "Why, how can you believe in something so impossible?" Admiral Han smiled. It was a sad smile, full of old pain and hard lessons. "Because we have done it ourselves, Your Majesty. We spent 3,000 years alone. In that time we fought each other. We killed each other. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. But we learned. We grew. We chose to be better. When we finally reached the stars, we made a promise to ourselves. Never again. Never again would we let hatred and fear control us. Never again would we become the monsters we had once been. It was not easy. It is still not easy. We fail sometimes. We make mistakes. But we keep trying, because we know that the only future worth building is one built together." She looked around the great hall, at the ancient pillars and faded paintings. "Your empire is old, Your Majesty. It has survived for 12,000 years, but it can be something more than a survivor. It can be a builder, a healer, a light in the darkness. We are asking you to try. That is all, just try." The Emperor stood there for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. "Very well, Admiral Han. I will consider your offer, and I will speak with the other species of this galaxy. If what you say is true, if you can truly deliver what you promise." "We can, Your Majesty, we will." The Emperor looked at her, with something that might have been respect. "Then perhaps there is hope after all." Outside the palace, the sky was filled with human ships, 12,000 vessels waiting in silence, patient, ready. And somewhere in the fleet, Captain Park stood on the bridge of the Silent Dawn, watching the planet below. "Do you think they will accept?" Doctor asked, standing beside him. "I think they will," Park said quietly. "They are afraid, but they are not fools. They see what we offer. They understand what it means." "And if they refuse?" Park was silent for a moment, then he shook his head. "They will not refuse, because deep down they want what we want, a future, a chance, a reason to hope." He looked up at the stars, at the vast darkness that surrounded them. "Everyone does." Galactic Empire on Alert, Part 5, The Compact. 1 year had passed since the human fleet arrived at Prime. 1 year of negotiations, agreements, arguments and compromises, 1 year of hope and fear and change. The galaxy was not the same anymore. The Galactic Compact had been signed by 50 species. The Empire was the first, but others followed quickly. Some joined because they believed in the vision Admiral Han had described. Others joined because they feared being left behind. A few joined because they had no choice, their old enemies suddenly becoming allies under the new order. The hegemony had collapsed within months. Warlord was overthrown by his own generals who had seen what human technology could do. The new leadership was moderate, careful, and very willing to cooperate. The slave camps were closed. The prisoners were freed. For the first time in centuries, there was peace. The headquarters of the Compact was built in neutral space, far from any. It was a massive station, constructed by engineers from a dozen species working together. Human and former enemies sharing meals and jokes and ideas. It was not perfect, it would never be perfect, but it was a beginning. On Prime, Captain Park stood before a monument. It was a simple wall of black stone, covered with names. 12 names. 12 soldiers who had died during the battle at Prime, killed by secondary explosions despite humanity's non-lethal weapons. Park visited the monument every week. He came alone, in civilian clothes, without guards or ceremony. He stood there for exactly 1 hour each time, reading the names, remembering the faces. An official found him there one day. She was young, barely 200 years old, and she did not understand. "Captain Park," she said, "why do you come here? These were enemy soldiers. They tried to kill you." Park did not look away from the wall. "Because they matter," he said quietly, "every single one. They were following orders. They attacked us. Yes, and they died for it. That does not make them less important. It makes them tragic." He turned to face her. "We spend so much time talking about victory and defeat, about winning and losing. But we forget that behind every statistic, every casualty report, there are real people, people with families, with dreams, with lives that will never be lived now." But they were enemies. Today's enemies can become tomorrow's friends. Look around you, and working together. Humans and species we had never heard of a year ago. If we can change, anyone can. But only if we remember that everyone deserves a chance, even those we have fought. The official was silent. She looked at the names on the wall, really looked at them for the first time. "I never thought of it that way," she admitted. "Most people do not. It is easier to see enemies as monsters, as things instead of people, but that way of thinking is what causes wars in the first place." Park smiled slightly. "We are trying to build something new, something better, and that starts with remembering that life is precious, all life, even the lives of those who would do us harm." On another world, Lieutenant stood in front of a classroom. His students were young officers from a dozen species, with 4 arms, with scales, small, furry creatures from the outer rim whose names he could not pronounce. They had come to the military academy to learn, to become the new generation of defenders for the Compact, and had been given the task of teaching them. "Today," he said, "we will discuss the philosophy of warfare." A student raised his hand. "Sir, why do we need philosophy? War is simple. You fight, you win, you survive." "Is it?" Walk to the front of the room. "Tell me what happens after you win." You take what you want. You make sure the enemy cannot fight again. "And then?" The student hesitated. "Then you go home." "And the enemy, the people you defeated, what happens to them?" I do not know. They rebuild, I suppose, or they die." Nodded. "And what if they rebuild and become strong again? What if they come back for revenge? What if their children grow up hating you for what you did to their parents?" The classroom was silent. "War is not simple," continued. "Killing is easy. Any species can learn to kill. You do not need training for that. You do not need academies or teachers. Violence is the simplest thing in the universe. The hard part, the part that takes true strength, is learning when not to kill. learning how to win without creating enemies for the future, learning how to fight in a way that leaves room for peace afterward. He looked at his students, at the young faces watching him. You are not here to learn how to destroy. You are here to learn how to protect, to defend, to serve something greater than yourselves. That is what the compact needs, not killers, not warriors, guardians. The student was quiet for a moment, then he nodded slowly. I think I understand, sir. Good, now let us begin. On Earth, Doctor stood on a beach inn, watching the sun set over the ocean. The water was painted gold and red, and the sound of the waves was soft and gentle. She had not been home in 3 years. She had forgotten how beautiful it was. Her mother stood beside her, was an elderly woman with hair and kind eyes. She had raised 3 children, buried a husband, and lived through times of war and peace. She understood sacrifice. Was it worth it, she asked quietly, leaving everything behind, going so far away? Thought about the question. She thought about the child who had asked her what Earth's sky looked like, and how she had shown him pictures of clouds and sunsets and mountains. She thought about the soldier who had wept when she played him a recording of a forest, the sound of birds and wind through leaves. She thought about the countless small moments, the connections made across the vast gulf between species. Yes, she said finally, it was worth everything. Her mother smiled and took her hand. They stood there together, watching the sun sink below the horizon. Far across the galaxy, another sensor station detected something new, an anomaly, a ship emerging from unexplored space. It was small, hesitant, clearly scared. The species inside had just developed faster than light travel. They were taking their first steps into the unknown. They were alone. They were afraid. They did not know what waited for them in the dark. But this time, they would not stay alone for long. A human vessel was dispatched immediately, escorted by ships. The message they carried was simple, broadcast on all frequencies as they approached. We come in peace, we would like to talk, you are not alone. The small ship hesitated. Its crew had expected many things: monsters, enemies, the cold silence of empty space. They had not expected kindness. They had not expected welcome. They had not expected hope. Slowly, carefully, they answered. We hear you, we are listening. Good, the human voice replied. We have so much to tell you, so much to share, and we have been waiting for you for a very long time. Waiting for us. For you, for everyone like you. Every species that looks up at the stars and wonders. Every child that dreams of something beyond their world. Every soul that hopes for something better. There was a pause, then the voice continued, warm and gentle. Welcome to the galaxy. You are going to love it here. And somewhere in the vastness of space, among the billions of stars and the countless worlds, something new was being born. A future where no one had to be alone. A future where enemies could become friends. A future where the darkness was pushed back, little by the light of hope. It would not be easy. Nothing worth doing ever was. There would be setbacks and failures and tragedies. There would be those who resisted, who clung to the old ways, who could not let go of their hate. But there would also be victories, small and large, personal and global. Victories measured not in battles won or territories conquered, but in lives saved and connections made and futures built. The galaxy was changing, slowly, carefully, one step at a time. And humanity was leading the way. Not as conquerors, not as rulers. As friends. As family. As the ones who had been alone in the dark and had chosen, when they finally found others, to be kind. That was their gift to the galaxy. That was their legacy. And it was only the beginning.